Am I considered the antagonist for showing no empathy towards my mother and informing her that she has reaped what she has sown? Allow me to share the story of my family. I am the second-born among 3 children. I have an elder sister named Emma and a younger brother named Sam. These are not their actual names, but for the sake of this narrative, let's proceed with these aliases. Our father passed away when Sam was merely an infant, which was a very difficult time for all of us. Following our father's death, our mother remarried with astonishing speed. In retrospect, Emma and I have begun to speculate that perhaps our mother was already involved with this new man before our father's passing. Our new stepfather, to be candid, is not the most admirable individual. It's important to clarify that there are certainly worse individuals in the world, but he is undoubtedly not a pleasant person. He does not have a fondness for children and ensured that we were well aware of this. He particularly did not favor Sam. I surmise that it is because Sam bears a striking resemblance to our father, and our stepfather appears to be the type of person who does not appreciate being reminded that his spouse had an existence and family prior to him. When Emma and I were still living at home, things were okay, but they started to get really bad between Sam and our stepdad after Emma and I both moved out. Sam started acting out a bit. It wasn't anything too serious, like him being out of control or anything. He just started getting into a little trouble, mostly for being cheeky to teachers at school. One time, he and his friends were caught drinking in the park, and the police brought him home in a police car. He didn't get charged or anything like that, but it was still a big deal at home. Our mom and stepdad decided that they didn't want Sam living with them anymore, so they kicked him out of the house the day after his 18th birthday. It was really sudden and harsh. At first, Sam came to live with me. I tried to help him as much as I could, but my place was small, and it wasn't a long-term solution. Luckily, Emma works as a real estate agent, and she was able to help Sam find his own place to live. Sam was really clear that he didn't want anything to do with our stepdad anymore after that. For a while, Sam tried to keep in touch with our mom. He reached out to her several times, hoping they could still have a relationship, but every time he tried, she either ignored him or was really hostile towards him. It was really hard for Sam, and eventually, he gave up trying to contact her. Now, it's been 5 years since Sam and our mom have spoken to each other. It's really sad because I know Sam misses her, but he feels like she chose our stepdad over him. Cut to now, and the problem is that our stepdad passed away last November. It was really tough on Mom, and I totally get that. She was really sad and hurting after he died. Mom tried to reach out to my younger brother, Sam, again. She wanted to fix things between them, but Sam was like, "Nope, you had your chance to fix our relationship, and you didn't do it. I'm done trying." He told her he's not interested in having a relationship with her anymore. This made Mom really upset, and she came to me, asking if I could talk to Sam and maybe get him to change his mind. I felt super awkward, but I had to be honest. I told her, "Sorry, but I can't. Sam is right. He tried to fix things with you years ago, and you ignored him. Now he doesn't want to try anymore." I told her she kind of made her own bed with this situation. Mom got really upset and started crying, which made me feel bad. Later, my sister Emma asked what was going on because Mom must have talked to her too. I explained everything to Emma, and she said she understood my point but thought I was being too harsh and that Sam was being stubborn. Now I'm just feeling confused and guilty. I didn't mean to make Mom cry, but I wanted to be honest. I understand that maybe the stepdad influenced Mom to kick Sam out, but I was just trying to tell the truth. Was I the a-hole in the process? Edit. Apparently, I have to include the word a-hole for this conflict to be valid. So yeah, Mom and Emma thought I was being an angel when they called me harsh and said I'm stubborn. Now, for the comments, personally, I think you were being honest with your mom. She really did make her own bed. You don't know her sympathy, either. She wants her son back in her life once her husband is dead. What happens to this new relationship with her son if she marries again? Something tells me she wants a caretaker. She's probably getting old or needs someone to be the man in the house and do some chores, or maybe even make company until she finds another man to marry. Not the a-hole. Stay out of it. Sister 2. She got upset and started crying. I understand why she's upset because it's all very upsetting. Be that as it may, it's also all on her, not the whole. Imagine how upset Sam must have been when his own mother, his last living parent, chose her new husband over her son. She treated him like an adult the second he became an adult. She doesn't get to go back now. OP, you're not the a-hole. You would be if you tried to pressure him. Your sister is bridging on a whole territory. This decision is up to Sam and Sam alone, not you or your sister. It's up to your mother to earn his love and trust back. If he doesn't want her in his life, that is his choice, and none of you have a right to pressure him. Not the a-hole. She sabotaged her relationship with her son in favor of a relationship with her new husband and cut her son out for 5 freaking years, literally kicked him out of the house with no place to stay. If I were Sam, I would be pretty damn bitter about it. You can't just welcome her back with arms wide open after that. At that point, you're used to a life without any parents in it. Exactly what Opie's mother did to Sam was essentially a deep betrayal, and at some point, you live with what you did because you can't make amends. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pretend to be a happy family? So, I'm a 15-year-old girl, and my brother is 13. We're really close. Our parents got divorced 4 years ago, and it's been really tough for both of us. Before the divorce, everything felt normal and stable, but after that, things got really complicated. Recently, our mom met this guy named Jay. At first, we thought he was just another guy she was dating, but things moved really quickly between them. Jay has 3 kids of his own, and about 6 months ago, they all moved in with us. Yeah, they moved in right in the middle of the pandemic. This was especially scary because my brother has a weak immune system. We were really worried about him getting sick, but our mom seemed to think it would be fine. Our dad is trying to use this situation to get custody of us because he thinks it's not safe for my brother to be around so many new people during a pandemic. But the whole legal process is going really slow. It's frustrating because we just want to be somewhere safe and stable. Jay's kids are kind of terrible. There are 3 of them. A 16-year-old boy, a 12-year-old girl, and a 9-year-old boy. They're all spoiled brats who throw tantrums whenever they don't get their way. When they first moved in, Jay and my mom wanted me to share a room with his daughter and my brother to share a room with his 2 sons. We really didn't want to do that. We had to fight really hard to not share rooms with them. Luckily, Jay decided my brother was too unpredictable to share a room with his precious boys. So now, my brother and I share my room. This isn't the best situation either because my room is pretty small, and it's hard to have any privacy, but at least we're together and not with Jay's kids. Jay's kids are really hard to live with. They're always whining and complaining about something. The 16-year-old acts like he's the boss of everyone. The 12-year-old is super spoiled and always trying to get her way, and the 9-year-old is just a little terror who throws fits all the time. We really don't like them, and they don't like us either, so there's no love lost there. Honestly, everything would be fine if we could just live with our dad. We feel a lot safer and happier when we're with him. But for now, we're stuck here. Lately, Jay and our mom have been trying to make it seem like we're one big happy family, but my brother and I aren't playing along. Whenever Jay calls me his daughter, I loudly correct him, saying, "No, you're not my dad." This really annoys them. My brother has started doing it too. He gets really upset whenever Jay calls him his son. Sometimes our mom talks about Jay's daughter like she's our sister, and I just ignore her because I don't see her as my sister. This is causing a lot of fights between our mom and Jay. They argue about us all the time. Jay thinks we should just accept his kids and him as our new family, but we don't want to. I don't think I'm wrong. I have one brother, and Jay is not my dad. My dad thinks we should calm down a bit and try to get along with them, but I don't see the point. Mom won't give him custody, and she seems really stressed out with us. I think she'll either let us go live with Dad eventually or do something that will help Dad get custody of us. Living here is really hard. We don't feel like we belong in this new family. Jay and his kids don't like us, and we don't like them. We miss our old life before the divorce when everything was simpler. We just want to be somewhere we feel safe and loved, and right now, that place is with our dad. Until then, we're just trying to get through each day without too much drama. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole for not wanting to play happy family. Jay and his family were your mother's choice, not yours. You can't force yourself to feel something that you just don't. However, your father may be right about toning it down for now. Maybe drop the profanity. Otherwise, you're fine. That's fair. Mom and stepdaughter dislike the "not my father" part, and that is the plain truth. Nobody could blame you for saying the truth. Not the a-hole, and not wanting to be forced into a family dynamic that you don't want to be part of. I do agree with your dad that you need to tone it down. You are still young to be developing this resentment and anger, and I'm sure your dad is just looking out for you by saying to tone it down. I know he is, but it feels like I'm letting them win. You know, not the whole. They can't force you to be happy as a family as you clearly are not, and I do understand why you want to keep going like that. My mom isn't going to let him have custody, and she kind of seems at her breaking point with us. She'll either give us up or do something that could be used as evidence against her. But as far as I understand, you can give a statement where you can state that you would prefer to go live with your dad and the reasons. So, till then, you don't have to play nice, but maybe try not to make life harder for the two of you during the remaining time we have. Because our dad is on the poorer side, he has never been granted custody. It sucks, and I hope we can be put with him soon. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for refusing to stop being around my nephews because it makes my sister-in-law uncomfortable? I'm 29, and 2 years ago, I lost my twin brother, Roy, after he suffered a head injury. My brother left behind 2 boys, my nephews, Brandon, who was 9 at the time, and my youngest nephew, Chase, who was only 4. My mom helped out a lot after Roy passed, and I unfortunately wasn't able to be around the first year because I was working out of the country. When I got back, I got more involved with the boys and helped my sister-in-law out when I could, picking them up from school and watching them for a few hours after, taking them out sometimes on the weekend, being the fun uncle. There have been a few times recently where my sister-in-law would accidentally call me Roy, and it made her emotional. Now, it's like she avoids me if we're alone and is very short with me. Since quarantine, my sister-in-law leaves the kids at my mom's house during the day while she works, and I always stop by for a few hours. Last time I was there, I played with Brandon on his PS4. When my sister-in-law got there and saw us, she asked if we could speak in private. She told me my presence has made things harder on her because all she can see is Roy. It confuses her and makes her uncomfortable. Me playing with my nephews and being involved doesn't make it any better, and she asked me to stop spending time at my mom's house for a while or be around them at their place. That hurt, if I'm being honest. I told her if she doesn't want me at her house, then that's fine, but she can't demand I not come over to my mom's just because my nephews are there and there's a chance she'll see me. This made her upset, and they left shortly after. I told my mom about this, and she said I have to understand that my sister-in-law is still grieving. So seeing me doesn't make it any easier because me and Roy are identical. I just don't think it's fair to ask me to distance myself from them over this. Brandon texted me all weekend asking why I hadn't come over because we usually play basketball Saturday mornings. Today, I did come over to my mom's, and the second my sister-in-law came to pick them up, she got really cold with me. She got angry when Brandon asked if I could come over this weekend and told him no. Brandon was mad about it when they left. Afterwards, my mom said that maybe I should just follow her wishes and keep my distance from the boys, which again, I don't see how that's fair to them or me. It upset Brandon that I didn't spend any time with him this weekend, and it makes me sad that I can't see the boys just because I look like my brother. I understand grief does things to people, and I get her pain. I lost my twin brother. I see him every time I look at myself, so in a way, I understand that pain. So, am I the a-hole for continuing to be around them despite the way it makes her feel? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your mother is dropping the ball on this one. The obvious solution is for your mother to tell your sister-in-law when you are over and then ask you to step into another room while she picks up the kids. This allows everyone to continue their relationships, and your sister-in-law has the space to not see her dead husband. Yeah, why should the nephews be punished for sister-in-law's issue? They're grieving too and want to spend time together. This reminds me of posts like this one where the surviving twin is harassed for attending their twin's funeral because it's inappropriate. People are just weird with twins. It's like they can never be treated as their own separate self even after one of them passes on. No a-holes here. I'm sorry for your loss. You're all still grieving. Ultimately, your sister-in-law is their mom, so you should respect her wishes. I think you need to talk with your sister-in-law about a way you can be there for the boys in a way that makes everyone comfortable. Maybe it's when she's not present, or maybe you check in every 6 months to see where she's at with letting you see the boys. Right now, though, her actions are hurting her boys by making them feel abandoned. That's the part that needs to be fixed. While I agree with most of what you're saying, I think it's unfair to open the kids to not have Opie around anymore. They lost their dad, and that can't have been easy. Now they'd be losing their uncle too. Even if it is for a little while, I think the best compromise right now is that the sister-in-law can message when she's on her way to Opie's mother's house or when she's outside, so that he can go into another room. That way, she doesn't have to see him, but Opie can still spend time with his nephews. Also, it sounds like the kids are at Opie's mother's house every day, which means he wouldn't be able to see their mother anymore, which is also unfair. No a-holes here. This situation sucks for everyone. Sorry for your loss, but the solution she gave doesn't sound very practical. Could she be warned ahead of time if you were around, so she can avoid you while you're hanging out with the boys? Maybe she can't be around you for the foreseeable future, but it doesn't mean you can ever see your mom or the boys again. Story 4. Am I the a-hole for swapping babysitting with my brother but not my stepsister? I, 26, female, have a brother, Mark, 28, male, and a stepsister, Emily, 27, female. Mark and I have always been close, while there is about 15 years of issues with Emily from childhood and a little after. Mark and I lost our dad, while Emily had both her parents and gloated about it when we were kids. None of us were super happy when we became a blended family. Mark and I were grieving our dad's loss, and Emily was grieving her parents' marriage and nuclear family, and she used the fact that she was only there every other weekend to tease us because we had to deal with living full-time with our step-parent, while she didn't have to see her as much, and she could say our mom wasn't her mom, but eventually, we would have to call her dad dad. It was a messy situation. My mom and stepdad did try their best to nip it in the bud. They also tried to make it feel like him being our dad wasn't a bad thing, but we never did get there with him. The issues with Emily continued until about 4 years ago when she moved out of state, and we just stopped having anything to do with her and vice versa. It broke my mom and stepdad's hearts because they had hoped time would make us feel more like a family. We're in family therapy, and attempts to bond had failed, but it didn't. Now I have a son, and my brother Mark has 2 daughters. We swapped babysitting pretty often during COVID-19, especially because when my husband and I were working, he wasn't, and when he and my sister-in-law were working, I wasn't. It felt good to have each other because we were all following the rules. Back in July, Emily moved back into the state and close to her dad because she was a struggling single mom who had lost a lot. She asked Mark and me about joining the babysitting swaps and said it would be good for the cousins to know each other. Mark told her that it's a sibling exchange, and since she's not his sibling, he wouldn't be doing it. She called him an idiot and said he was being unfair and that he should want to be an uncle. His reply was simply that he already was to my son. She asked me what I thought, and I said we were effectively strangers again and I didn't feel comfortable doing it. She called us both jerks and said this was why she didn't like us growing up. She then went and told her dad that we were excluding her, and that's why she cut us off. He confronted us, and I pointed out that we excluded her because she would talk to us, and why would we want to hang out as kids with someone who thought it was so funny that our dad died? He said we should all put this stuff in the past and move on. His sibling, Mark, said we're not siblings and never were. I only feel guilty because I know she doesn't have anyone else. My mom and stepdad both work full-time and can't babysit. But at the same time, I don't see her and her child as family, and I think that ship has sailed given the history and years of no contact for her to come back and get annoyed when we don't want to babysit for her right away. Am I the a-hole now? For the comments. I don't see her and her child as family, and I think that ship has sailed. It's all right. They're not the a-hole. Mark told her that it's a sibling exchange, and since she's not his sibling, he wouldn't be doing it. He cut to the chase and gave her the most direct, no-nonsense response. Love it. Went straight for the kill. Not the a-hole. She made it clear she didn't want to be your sister and only wants to now because she gets something out of it. Stick to your guns. She made her bed. She can lie in it. How much do you want to bet that when it's her turn to watch the kids, she would find some excuse to get out of it? Not the a-hole. I hate the well, we're sort of family, so whatever happened should be forgotten fallacy. She's been in all your life, and now that she needs you, it should all be forgotten and forgiven without an apology, might I add? If you feel like it, obviously, you could try and use her situation to see if you can grow closer, but that's up to you and perfectly understandable if you don't want to. Story 5. My 32M girlfriend 29F, is upset with me because I don't do 50% of the housework. How do we find a reasonable compromise? When we first met, she made it fairly clear that she expected me, as a man, to be a provider, and as we continued dating for a while, her expectations were in line with me assuming a very traditional gender role. I was fine with this. I built a fairly successful career and pay roughly 90% of our combined communal bills on a 320K salary, while she makes 40K. I do all the maintenance for our cars, the boat, and all the yard work. It's been about 2 years of living together, and up until now, I felt things were going well. She has recently started complaining that I'm not carrying my weight around the house. I don't do any of the cooking, do very little of the cleaning, and don't do the laundry. I felt our division of labor was fairly well established. I do all the traditional male work and pay the bills, and she maintains the homestead. But if I still have to do half of the housework while almost entirely carrying the financial burden and the yard work, then her contribution would be far less than mine. I've also recently mentioned that when we have kids, I would prefer to have them homeschooled since she's going to be a stay-at-home mom anyway. She wasn't very receptive to the idea since she wants to have daytime hobbies while she's still a stay-at-home mom. This didn't make any sense to me. Stay-at-home doesn't imply using the free time to pursue hobbies. It's meant to tend to the house and the kids. Edit. This keeps being asked, so I'll answer. I work almost 70 hours a week, and she works around 25. I've literally started having panic attacks between the demands at work and getting home to being antagonized. I've had to pull over on the side of the road several times in the last month. The last 48 hours have been really eventful, and while I'm still processing all that's happened, I figured posting would help me gain some mental clarity. The night after posting here, I decided to just have a frank discussion with her and figure out how we can divide our responsibilities fairly. I first laid out the math. I work roughly 70-hour weeks and have an hour commute 6 days a week, another hour spent on getting ready for work, and another hour spent at the gym or jogging. I typically then spend 3 to 4 hours on average per weekend working on outdoor projects or indoor repairs. Some weekends are more eventful than others, but I felt this was a fair estimate. I explained that this leaves me with an average of less than 3 hours a day to just live, as she already knows. Most days, I wake up, get ready for work, leave, and within an hour of getting back, I head to bed. I'm not a messy person and generally pick up after myself since I'm barely home. If I start doing 50% of the housework, I'd practically be cleaning up after her and her 2 dogs. She was resolute about having me contribute 50% to the housework and kept mentioning that the idea of me doing less housework made her uncomfortable. Eventually, we settled on just having a maid come in twice a week. We had been drinking while having this discussion and continued after we decided on the maid. We were quite a bit more drunk when she mentioned for the first time ever that she had around 15K in credit card debt from before we met that she wanted me to clear up before we got married. It just kind of hit me like lightning at that point. This relationship makes life easier for her but makes life harder for me. Before we met, I was content in my apartment, 5 to 10 minutes walking distance from work, with my 2015 Corolla and basic furniture. Since then, I've bought a house she wanted near the water, which I'm not a fan of, a boat she wanted, with a pool I didn't want, thousands spent on furniture she wanted, and a BMW I didn't want. I even got her a job at my company so she could earn as much as she did before, but only worked 25-hour weeks. When we woke up yesterday, I called off work and just told her that this relationship wasn't going to work. I just explained to her that my life wasn't getting easier or happier, just the opposite. She was really keen on arguing, and eventually even said she no longer wanted the maid, but I didn't really budge. She left around noon with her dogs, and I assumed she went to her parents' house since I started getting calls from them. I didn't really have the energy to respond, so I just ignored them. I'm not exactly sure when she'll do so, but I hope she'll be able to collect her things in the next few weeks. She can keep working at my company for a couple more months until she finds something more suitable.